way. We are all set. So I think we're good. We're live streaming on Facebook. We're recording this. We're going to give everybody a minute or two more to get on way. We are all set. So I think we're good. We're live streaming on Facebook. We're recording this. We're going to give everybody a minute or two more to get on way. Ooh, we have to stop that immediately. We're all set. So I think we're good. We're live streaming on Facebook. We're recording this. Give everybody a minute or two more to get on way. Ooh, we have to stop that immediately. We're all set. So I think we're good. We're live streaming on Facebook. We're recording this. Give everybody a minute or two more to get on way. Let's see here. That made it better, right?
That did make it better.
Okay. Facebook was trying to tell me what I was saying, which was great. We are seeing a lot of people. Nick Ayers actually said he might leave the whole webinar if you don't sing Final Countdown. So
I don't think I even know any of the words.
You do too. It's the final countdown.
Oh, there you go. Now I don't have to do it.
You got me to do it. All right. Well, it's 12:01, so I think we should get started. I think everyone can kick on, but here we go. So, guys, first of all, I'm super excited that everyone could join us here today. I think it's so great. We're so grateful for our partnership with IAOA. You know, it's been a great time. We have a lot of clients that are IAOA members. We always think it's fantastic that you know, that we can participate, and we're super psyched today to bring kind of how to be ridiculously amazing at insurance sales to everybody. So we do want to make this interactive. So a couple notes, if you guys don't mind, any questions that you have, if you could go ahead and live chat them, we will be doing our best to kind of keep an eye on that. So, you know, we will be fielding questions as we go or saving to the end. But I think without further ado, we appreciate you spending your time today with us, and let's kind of get started. So I don't know if you know these two gorgeous looking people, Dave, do you?
I do.
Do you want to take a moment and introduce yourself to our IAOA family?
I would. So I have to say good afternoon. I know it's morning in more than half the country, but good morning and good afternoon to everyone. My name is David Siekman. I'm here at Agency Performance Partners with Kelly. Came on board last year to help with some amazing, ridiculously amazing sales and retention services. I've been in the industry for almost 19 years now, been a licensed agent for the last 13. So I'm looking forward to this webinar and to working with everyone.
Awesome. And I'm Kelly Donahue-Pirro. I'm founder of Agency Appeal and Agency Performance Partners. So we just like to help agents every day. And really the cool part about what we're going to deliver today is when Dave was on the agency side, he hired me to work with his agencies twice. So this was sort of the development of things that him and I worked on for about 7-8 years, maybe.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's super cool because we kind of refined it in his agencies, and now we can bring it out to everybody else. So very exciting day for me to be able to present this with you, Dave.
Me too.
So I just want to talk about something real quick. One thing that's near and dear to my heart is pets. So my dog is, you know, a big part of our life. And also Patriots, we're big supporters of veterans. So every time we speak, we say that if you like us on Facebook, if you take a photo of yourself on this webinar and post it anywhere and tag us, we're going to donate either $5 or $10 to Pets for Patriots. What they do is they match rescue animals with veterans coming back who have PTSD to help them. So it's a great cause. So take out your cameras right now, take the selfie. Doesn't matter if you're at home in New England on the snowstorm. We love to see pictures of hoodies. We're good with that. Tag us so that way we can raise some money for a great, great cause. Help some pets find homes and help some Patriots overcome some of the challenges that they have when they're coming back. So I just want to introduce you guys. This is our crazy team. So this is a photo shoot we did a while back, but there's a few members who have come and gone over the course of time. But between the two companies, we really do have about 11 people that we're working with. So it's a great blessing to be able to be on the road like I am. Dave's on the road and be supported by an awesome team. So we'd like to say hello to all of them out there. We're really appreciative of what you do every day to help support us and help support the agencies out there. But we're just going to kind of get right on into it, if that's all right with everybody. So I always say, you know, when we're selling insurance, the key is not thinking about ourselves. It's thinking about actually who we're trying to serve, okay? And the idea that we have one sales process for every type of lead, for every type of personality is crazy. That's not going to work. And so this is a very cool slide because these are some of the most important people to me personally. So the lovely lady on the left there, that's my grandma. Kate is 90 years old and she has a huge vegetable garden. She goes to bingo 3 times a week. And I swear she's going to outlive everybody in the family because she's just such a little awesome grandma. But selling insurance to her is going to be different. She's going to want to sit down with you and talk to you and really understand who you are and make sure that she feels comfortable. She's a pretty smart cookie, though. You could still get her on EFT. She'd prefer it. That way she can go play bingo. She doesn't have to worry about things. But, you know, your sales process needs to model that. The other lovely woman on the right, that's my mom. If any of you have been in any of my trainings, you've heard about my mom routinely because my mother could never sit in one of my trainings. I think I would get punished. I get sent to my room. My mom is the example of probably one of the toughest sales that you're going to have. She's single. She's got her own home, vehicle. She's retired. She's got nothing but time on her hands. And she's going to tell you that she wants the cheapest price, cheapest price. Until you learn about the lovely little guy up at the top there. That's my brother, Timmy D. Timmy D sometimes lives in my mom's basement. So what that means is that somebody who's 33 that sometimes lives in mom's basement without a vehicle, that there's some liability there of if he's driving her cars, etc. So if you tell my mom she might miss out on her next 3-week-long vacation to Europe because of something Timmy does, she's going to buy any form of coverage you put in front of her. And the bottom lady, that's my best friend, Jen. She's a single mom. You know, how you sell insurance to her is going to be different. She does care about coverage. She does care about price. And we all have to mold ourselves into understanding who that end consumer is to really benefit them. And what we're going to do on this webinar today is break it down into 5 clear steps so that no matter who you're selling out there, personal, commercial lines, life insurance, we start identifying what's important to them, build that into our sales process, and deliver something that gets a high closing ratio. So Dave, I'm going to now turn this on over to you because this is your beautiful family.
Yes, this is my lovely wife, Carol, and our 3 kids. So I think when we think of consumers, as Kelly was saying, we have to make sure that we're focused on who we're selling to and adjusting our sales process to them. So this is who I am, 40-ish years old. We both work full-time. We watch TV a mix of different ways. We text a lot. We're on a lot of the social media platforms, and we order everything online. So I have no interest in being sold in a manner where I have to come down and sit down inside an agency or come to you at all. I'm very happy to communicate via text, very happy to receive my documents via email, pay online, pay through EFT. So you have to adjust to that. The other point that I want to make on this slide is typically when we talk about rounding out accounts, we separate our clients into monoline accounts and everyone that's rounded out. And for some reason, we think if we write a home and an auto policy with someone that we have now rounded them out. They're no longer a monoline account, so we're good to go. Obviously, people control more than just 2 policies. For myself, because I have the 3 kids, I have 5 life insurance policies. I've got disability, I've got my home, my auto, I've got a second home, I've got an umbrella policy, I've got health insurance that I manage. So I actually have a total of 12 policies that I manage. So somebody looking at my account and that just says, well, we have the home and the auto, and fails to try to cross-sell the other lines of business is leaving that exposed for other people to come in and try to sell them.
12 policies, Dave.
And I know that you can get up to even more than that, right, Cal?
Well, I've got all the business policies, so then it gets kind of tricky.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what is insurance really. And I love this slide because I think this tells it all. And so, we have a little glitch here. Hold on. When I think about what insurance is, I think that insurance is protecting what we love the most. And that's the way I look at it. So consumers might come out to us and think it's a bill. I don't want to pay it. I think it's paid too much. I hate the audit process. You know, my rates went up. I didn't get into any accidents. Why? Because it's what I go to work for every day. It's why I left my husband last night and flew at 6 o'clock at night from Boston to LA to get here, at 9:30 at night to be here this morning. It's because I like stuff and I want to protect that stuff. I love what I do as well, but when you take a look and you think about, what kind of home you have, what kind of cars you have, what kind of vacations you're taking, what's your financial stability, it's protecting what I love the most. It's protecting why I get up every day and go to work. And that's something we really have to focus on, is that the bill part of it is inconsequential. It's the protection part. And when we flip our thinking around to think, I have to protect what people love the most and convert them from a bill. They're going to come at you with price, right, Dave? If you look at when somebody's shopping insurance, you say, why are you shopping? Price.
Right.
Price, 100%. But if you look at why, when somebody goes to buy a car, what's the first thing on their mind? Price. When you go to the grocery store, what's the first thing on your mind? Price. We have to understand that price is on everybody's mind. We also have to convert that into value. And that's our job. So I see all too often, agents that go out there and say, well, the price was too high. The price was too high. I look at it like, did we do our job of understanding the value and really giving people options? And if we did, people don't buy the cheapest insurance 100% of the time.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when people have to realize that when someone looks at their insurance, the only piece that they really understand is that little bold number at the bottom of the deck page. If you show somebody a deck page, they don't understand anything on that except for the number. As you start to explain the different components, then they start to look at it more than just that premium, because that's all they understand when they first look at it.
And people don't get into accidents, in the same manner anymore either. So we don't get that same, oh, I was so grateful that they did X, Y, Z. Cars are so much safer, especially today, that a lot of accidents are kind of the fender bender type stuff. Still expensive because we all have fancy backup cameras and everything else, but a little different. And that means that in order for us to challenge ourselves how to be the best insurance salespeople, we're going to have to get out of our comfort zone. And Dave, do you want to maybe discuss a little bit about what this means?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the problem that we all live in this world where we just want to do things that we're used to doing. We don't like change. We don't want to embrace the unknown, things of that nature. And the problem is that 90% of sales is doing things that, having the guts to move forward when you are outside of that comfort zone. So I think being able to pick up the phone and make an outbound call, being able to, have a hard conversation with someone, whether it's around, something in their insurance history that has to be addressed, something in their payment history, just asking the tough questions in terms of, whether it's businesses talking about income, and personal lines talking about exposures that might be a little bit more uncomfortable. And just being able to engage with people on a level where, it might not be, in your initial comfort zone.
Absolutely. So this is one of my favorite slides. And I know, Dave, it's one of yours because we fought this with producers all the time. So I'll let you take this one over because you do this one better than me.
Well, I actually just had a conversation on one of our biweekly calls with one of our clients this morning when we were talking about this. And the excuse is typically, well, I don't prospect because it's non-revenue generating, right? So I've got voicemails I have to return. I've got a quote I've got to get out. What we fail to realize is that if we aren't prospecting, none of those other activities occur. So my argument is that your prospecting activities are actually your most revenue generating activities because they lead to everything else. And we run into this roller coaster scenario when we get so busy that we're not prospecting anymore, that we sell those accounts. We return the voicemails, we send out the quotes, we get some signatures, and we look up and there's nothing left in the pipeline. So you have to continue to prospect in order to be able to continue to sell.
What we always say is, I always say, like, imagine that, and you and I talk about this even in agency performance partners, imagine that June is going to be your worst sales month ever. If you knew that today, you had a crystal ball of sales, you would prospect your butt off to make sure that that didn't happen, right? Mm-hmm. So psychologically, in my head, I'm like, June's going to be the worst month ever. I have to do everything I can. I have to be up at 5 a.m. to be on a webinar, and I've got to be here, and I've got to be doing these things, because to me, the idea that I don't have time right now is a bad excuse. There's a lag time in insurance, and we need to play that game. So when we're busy, and how everybody knows how I feel about the word busy. I think it's the worst word ever. You should be productive. Is that you should still be prospecting an hour a day, and you just commit to it like a routine. Then you don't go through the roller coaster because you're busy, 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 which means that you're stuck behind your desk. You're getting back and forth to underwriters, but you're missing out on building your pipeline for June, July, and August. And that's what's really going to kill you. And that's when you're going to get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, like you're going down the roller coaster. Oh crap, what am I going to do? No one likes that feeling. But my big pitch to you guys is that as we go through this sales process, which we're about to get to, is that insurance is the greatest form of sales on the whole entire planet for one reason. You don't have to convince people that they're going to buy it. They're going to buy it one way or another. They have to buy it. They have to buy auto insurance. They have to buy homeowners insurance. They have to buy business insurance. They have to buy it. The only decision they're making is who to buy it from. So in every other industry in America, it's not mandatory that you buy something. What it is that we have to be out there and present ourselves in a manner that says, I want to do business with them. I want to do business with this person. And so for so long, we have taken the person out of it. Now, the role of the person has changed. It used to be face-to-face. But now the role of the person is more digital. The role of the person is more on the phone. And you can sell insurance in a completely digital transaction. What you do after that for your customer experience will matter 100%. But there's still a lot of people out there that do, when you have that conversation to take the quote, to take the information, everything is an audition. And I like to say, I love watching the Olympics. I like to say, I am in the Olympics, I'm in track and field, I have a sprint to run, and I have to literally kick the snot out of my competitors because we know people are going to get multiple quotes. So if they're going to get multiple quotes, my job is to perform so amazingly that you never even call anybody else back. But a lot of times we get in our head, we're taking a quote and it's this quote sheet and it's boring and it's blah. And we can't do that. That is a performance. And people are bonding with you. And if you take that bond so seriously, you have the opportunity to crush it.
Yeah, and remember that you're competing against every interaction that they have in their daily lives. You don't just have to be better than the interaction that they would have with the agent down the street or with Geico. You have to be better than the interaction that they just had at the supermarket, at the restaurant, at the clothing store, wherever you go. Because that's what they're comparing you to.
Absolutely. And Dave, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that when we think about insurance, we know that as independent agents, we have multiple markets. We need to be making sure that we're clear about that with our prospects that are calling in. Because as we can see on this slide, only about a quarter of the prospects are only going to call one place. So everyone wants 2, probably really 3 and 4 quotes. So in order to get them there, we have to make sure that we're explaining to them, we're going to shop you with multiple so that they don't feel the need to call somebody else.
Absolutely. And I think when we set our expectations that people are going to get multiple quotes, it changes how we approach the sales process, right? It's no longer a one-to-one. I don't think I'm just going to call Dave and that's the end of it. It's, okay, we're in hot competition. Everything from the time we release the quote to the questions that we ask, to the conversation we have is going to make a huge difference.
Right. And make sure that throughout the sales process, you're having those conversations. It's not just telling them up front. It's letting them know later when you go to present the quote, for example, is a great time to explain to them, hey, I ended up getting you rates with 6 different companies. Here are the top 3, or here's the one I'm recommending you go with.
Absolutely. So Dave, this slide always shocks me, but I get it because I'm this person.
Right, exactly. People need immediate gratification right now. So when a lead comes in, you have to call them right away. And as this slide shows, the longer that you wait, if you wait 24 hours, that you have a decent chance of converting them. But as we get it within 1 hour, 30 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, leads call under 1 minute, almost a 400% increase in that conversion rate when we jump right on them. And I think this is 2 things. I think it's number 1, I fill out a form. I want to get going. I'm there. I'm invested. I have the time to do it right now. And number 2, if you're building rapport, which is the next part of our conversation, and you're making sure that you're explaining to them that you're going to quote them with multiple companies and you're the right person and the agency is the right place to buy from, then they're just not going to call anybody else. They're not going to pick up the phone when anyone else calls. So it's that dual method of saying, I've got you, and you don't need anybody else.
I think that's so true. And then, one question I have, Dave, is how do agencies handle this nights and weekends, right? Because that's the rub. You will get quotes and, leads after 5 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a fairly simple solution. You have to contact them. I would suggest certainly a phone call is the best way to accomplish that. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to quote them at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, but certainly returning that phone call, sending them a text and emails, at least start the process some way communicating with them. Ultimately, I think you need to get to the point where you're able to pick up the phone and tell that person, I'm on it. I'll be back to you at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, whatever, set the expectation for when you're going to return the call. And that will reduce their shopping as well.
Absolutely. So let's get into the world-class 5-step sales process. And Dave, we're at the 20-minute mark, so we'll have to be super efficient going through this stuff. But why don't you kick it off with telling us? So I'll just kind of take a step back. We believe in 5 steps, right? So the first step of any sales process, build rapport. And I'm just going to say this, if we skip this step, you're making your sale way, way, way harder in the long run. So slow down to speed up, stop, build a foundation first and foremost before you go right on into the insurance interrogation, which is all the underwriting questions. We see this a lot with new producers. They want to go right into the underwriting questions and they forget the relationship. They forget that there's a person that is breathing on the other end of the phone, that has concerns, that has family, that has business questions. Then you do the insurance interrogation, which is all the underwriting questions. You have to set expectations, deliver your quote, and ask for the business. And we're going to talk about a few things on this webinar today that could be controversial depending on who you are. So we're going to do our best to say, hey, you may not agree, but listen to us, because we do have agencies doing it and they're crushing it. You might say, oh, well, I don't see how that works. I'm concerned. I'm scared. That would be difficult for me. I understand all of that. And I also understand that some of the things we're going to tell you today don't work 100% of the time. But if you can get them to work 80% of the time, you too will be killing it. Sound like a plan?
Agreed.
All right, Dave, tell me all about how we build rapport.
Absolutely. So I think that the first 2 bullets on this slide here, introduce yourself and brag and explain why your agency is the only one to choose. Those are 2 major components. And to me, you really need to take the time to build out both of those pitches. What is good about me? What is good about the agency? So explaining who you are, where you got your expertise from, whether you've been at that particular agency for a while or in the industry for a while. I always kind of sprinkle in there that I'm a licensed agent, because I think that people will react to that a little bit. I don't know that everyone is aware that you have to have a license to sell insurance. And then what is it about the agency that's unique? This could be as simple as, we're in the same town as you to drive that localness. Or what is it about the agency that you do differently? If your agency does annual reviews, is that something that you're explaining throughout the sales process? A way to tie them. What you really want to do in this process is tie them to you and to the agency. As we go through this, the next step is then to learn more about them. So you're explaining who you are and why you're great. You need to learn more about them and find something to connect with them on. Pets, kids, sports, weather if you have to, but find something as part of the conversation that you can connect with them on. That could be the type of car they drive, again, what town they live in. If you live in the same town, that's a great way to connect. Tie them to you. And then we start trying to get some information in order to figure out what we need to do to get the business and prevent them from continuing their shopping process. So find out why they're shopping, how they heard about us. Obviously, that's good for some marketing. But this is just continuing that conversation so that you and I are now connecting as people and not just on a transaction level.
So with all that being said, Dave, I know I kind of have my own little intro that I like to use, which is, my name is Kelly Donahue. I've been in insurance since I was 19. That way no one knows how old I am. And, I became passionate about insurance when I had a bad claim and I had to live in a hotel for 9 months. but I realized quickly it was better than living with my in-laws for 9 months. And what I want to do today is help get to understand you so that we can find a policy that fits within your budget. Does that sound like a good plan today? And if you really do your personal pitch well, you get buy-in, you tell people this is not going to be the worst process in the world. We keep driving value into the fact of what an independent agent is. And the reason I think we have to be so pinpointed on the introduction is if you stopped 5 people on the side of the street, how many of them would know what an independent agent is?
Some. It depends on the state, but right, you need to be able to explain who you are and what you do, and that includes your pitch as well as the agency pitch.
And why it matters, right? Why does somebody care about that? But when you have a consistent introduction, the other cool part with your personal pitch, agency pitch is you start taking control of that call. So a caller calls in and they're like, I need blah, 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 right? And they don't want to be on the phone with you and they want this process to be as quick as possible. You're now taking the control, you're pacing the call, and you're back in the driver's seat versus we've all been on that phone call or that lead call where they're driving. It's really hard to follow your process.
Right. And I think the key with your pitch and the agency pitch is making sure that you're practicing it and so that it becomes just a natural flow for you. And I know people are going to hate this, but you need to record it and listen to it and send it to other people and let them listen to it and give you feedback. You'll go through that pain, but you'll come out the other side where you can just rattle it off like Kelly just did. It's 15 or 20 seconds. It flows naturally. There's a little bit of a chuckle in there, and it makes makes you bonded to them.
Well, what we find is people struggle with the personal pitch because people don't like talking about themselves, which is silly. You have to. You're an important part of that transaction. One other bullet point on that slide, Dave, that I think is super important is hammering home in the rapport building, this one line that I love. So other than price, what's the most important thing to you in selecting your insurance agent? And I just want you to zip it. Make them think for a second. Because somebody might be like, oh, I want to be there if you have a claim, or, I've got questions sometimes. You're going to find the other reason. So price is usually the straw that breaks the camel's back. There's usually something else that has caused them discomfort that got them to start shopping. So use that as your advantage.
Yeah, and you can use that at the end when they come back and they say, oh, well, I'm only saving this, or you're the same price. It's also a great way to build rapport in that you're recognizing with them that price is important to them, so that you're not sitting there kind of pretending like nobody cares about price. So you're buying into it. But you're kind of doing that as a given so that you do a little rapport building in there, but then to transition into what you're saying, which is gathering some more information on them.
And then the zinger is if you come up higher than what they're currently paying, either they were underinsured or you just don't have the same markets, now you can turn that around as leverage, right? So now you can say, listen, for $10 more a month, we're going to do all of this for you. Don't you agree that that's worth it? And you can have, but without that little piece, if you come in higher, you're sort of just surrendering. Well, I'm higher, it's over. So you need to build these little pieces in your sales process. So let's talk about the insurance interrogation next. So this is where I laugh because I've listened to literally thousands of hours of recorded insurance phone calls. And if we're building rapport, because when we go and install this process in agencies, we take it step by step. So people get really good at the personal pitch and they're all fun. And then it's like, all right, I'm going to take out my quote sheet and I'm literally going to pretend like you're not a person. It's like VIN number, year of your roof, how many employees, what's your payroll? And it's like I just feel like there's like this light shining on the poor little prospect. It's like, please help me. You still have to do all your underwriting questions, but we need to make it simple and easy. So you have to ask the questions in a conversational manner. And one thing I preach to people is do not make the client do work if you can get the information. So if you're quoting home, pull the house up on Zillow, confirm the information, right? So I see on Zillow that the year of your roof is X. Is that about right? Is this about right, the number of square feet? That is far better than the information you're going to get. If you asked me the year of my plumbing, I actually don't know off the top of my head. So I'm going to give you some kind of answer, but it's probably not that great. So you have to keep the conversation going. And, just remember there's still agencies that we run out to that require a deck page to quote insurance. And I am adamantly against that. It is nice to have if you can get it easily, but one, most policies have not been reviewed accurately in years, so it's inaccurate. Two, we're asking them to do a step in the process. Anything in sales, the more convenience you can add in, the better off you are. Three, I'm on the phone with Dave. I'm getting his information to say, can you send me my deck page? Guess what happens? Brakes on. My sales process stops, and now I'm waiting for you to go find your deck page and get it to me. And it's just too much. So do not ask for a deck page to quote. If somebody has it in front of them and it's clear, ask them to take a picture on their phone and send it to you. But if they have to call their current agent, guess what's going to happen? Your sale goes into jeopardy because you are trying to take the easy way out rather than the right way to do things. So do not resist that. If there's anybody on here right now being like, that was the first thing that sometimes people get a little uncomfortable about. Now, I know the IAOA agents are a little bit more modern, so hopefully no one's having a panic attack right now. But this is a great way to do things. Avoid putting people on hold or having dead silences. So there's nothing worse than hearing this. Click, 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 click. Yes. How many employees? Click, 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 click. Payroll? Click, 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 click. It's like, gosh, we just had such a good time. Now I want to get off the phone with you again. This is horrible. You have to be conversational throughout the entire thing. And keep finding interesting moments. So if you need a moment to catch up in your head because you're just trying to process the information or get between screens, totally get it. Have some softball questions that don't mean anything. Have questions about, tell me a little bit. How did you get started in this industry? Oh, do you have a garden at your home? What do you have in it? Get yourself back into it. When people are talking, they're building a relationship with you, even though your brain might be in a slightly different place. And this is when you want to do what we call 4 and score, okay? On every new lead, a minimum of 4 policies should be considered. There is this truth that my brother living in my mom's basement barely has 1 policy. But in, again, the 80-20 rule, 80% of the time we should be thinking 4 policies. 4 policies, 4 policies, 4 and score. So if you're doing your due diligence, right now is the time to get that information to quote those other policies. Let's be honest, once you get the basics down, there's only a handful of other questions you generally need to offer. So for example, someone calls in looking for homeowners insurance, I would just start asking for the auto insurance. I wouldn't ask to quote it. So I might say, hey Dave, great. How many vehicles do you have? Perfect. What are their VIN numbers? I just would go into it. And if Dave says, why do you need that? I'd say, well, you had stated that price was very important to you. So I didn't want to rule out our most competitive discount, which is taking a look at all the policies. I just need a few pieces of information to get a preliminary quote started. And I would feel terrible if we didn't send you our most competitive pricing. So can you just tell me who the main driver on this car? And you just keep moving. It should be a very seamless situation. When we start asking to quote, what do you think happens? And then it's really hard to get back out of it. So in your head, you just have to be thinking about the 4 policies and the questions you need to ask and lean your way into it. If somebody stops you, remind them of why you're doing it. Find the personal ties to those extra policies. So my dog is the reason I have an umbrella policy, hands down. Statistics on health are the reason that I bought a $2 million life insurance policy on myself when I was unmarried and 27 years old. When you start getting to know that person through rapport building, you can find the ties to those extra policies. So if you said, hey, you have a dog, if they ever got out and bit somebody, are you prepared to potentially have your wages garnished? No. Great, let's add on an umbrella policy. Life insurance, 1 out of every 8 women is going to be diagnosed with breast cancer. It's the cheapest it's going to ever be today. Let's get started. You have to be able to manipulate that rapport building into those extra policies. Don't ask permission to quote. We're just going to lean into it so that way you get the biggest opportunities. And this is when I like to find out their old and new insurance premiums. So I like to go into presenting my quote, understanding where I stand. If I'm saving someone 20%, I'm like walking in there with a happy dance, like, woohoo! If I'm going in there and I'm higher, I'm going in there serious face, ready to sell, and you get to work, right? But a lot of times people are hesitant to give you those insurance premiums. So what I usually say is, based on, what you're working with, what's your family's budget for insurance? Or can you just tell me, was your previous premium and what did the new renewal come in at? And the reason I want you guys to find out both previous and new, everyone's going to give you the old one. Okay? And when they give you the old one, that has an expiration date that's going to be gone. That's not the one you're quoting against. You're quoting against the new one. But in their head, they're not paying for this old one. So they just think, well, I'm going to give you the old one. And you could walk into that presentation thinking you don't have a chance. So you need to get both, okay? Old and new. And that's something I would fight to try to really get. Don't take no for an answer, because it's going to help empower you in how you present that quote. Now, if you really can't get it, you got to do your best and you got to do your job. But again, 80-20 rule. I want 80% of the time walking into my pitch knowing exactly where I stand.
I think one of the reasons why you get a lot of no's at that point is because they do feel like they've gone through this interrogation. So it's like the last question after they've kind of been beat up, and that's like something that they can keep back. So if you continue to build rapport and build that relationship and have a good conversation around those underwriting questions, they're less likely to have their guard up and more likely to just say, oh, sure, here's what it is, because it just becomes another part of the conversation.
Totally. I couldn't agree with that more. So here's what I want to say. And Dave, I'm going to leave you this one since I already dropped the don't quote, don't get a deck page, just lean into the quote. I'm going to let you handle this one.
All right, I'll take it. So quoting on the phone, to me, is the easiest way to improve your chances at closing down that sale. Now, I get it. If you've done a good job and you're going to be quoting 5 or 6 different policies because there's a boat and a second home and you've got to go do all of this due diligence on homeowner underwriting questions, et cetera. And certainly in commercial lines, when you have to go to multiple carriers, I get it. There are times when you're not going to be able to quote on the phone. Having said that, again, 80-20 rule. Should we be looking at this from a what's easiest or what's going to make me more successful? So quoting on the phone and not letting the person off the phone is going to increase your odds of closing them down. They are invested now, they're interested now. And honestly, it's a better customer experience because as long as you've told me that this is going to be a 25 or a 30-minute call, I'm okay with spending 30 minutes if it means I'm going to have the accurate quotes at the end of that call versus I'm going to spend 15 minutes with you now, then you're going to go off and spend some unknown time doing whatever it is you do, and then I'm going to have to get it back on the phone and do another 10-minute call with you. So now I've created this really unstable process instead of just saying to them, hey, it's going to take 25 or 30 minutes. I'm going to get you your home and your auto quote, and let's move forward. And then that way, once you're into the process, now you've already presented them 2 quotes. Now you can lean into your 4 and score because you're going to be able to easily add the umbrella onto that and have the conversation on life. So to me, unless you're going into it knowing it's going to be an hour call because there's 5 or 6 lines of business that you need to do, I would stick with quoting on the phone.
I think the other benefit to quoting on the phone and where people get tripped up is, especially in personal lines, is, the rater is inaccurate. I can't go off of that. I would say, of course it's inaccurate. That's okay. What I'm trying to do is say, I have an estimate here. Some preliminary numbers look like this. Does that meet what you're looking for? And if so, we can move forward on firming up some numbers. So you get a soft yes in there. And of course you could pin it back on if what you're telling me is accurate with no tickets, no accidents, no et cetera, this is, ballpark, and you get a soft yes so that you can keep moving forward. But we have this thing in insurance sales of down to the penny. And I think while you're in the sales process, you need to start ballparking some things. And then down to the penny is when you give them their actual application and their quote, their physical quote. But you can ballpark things in the meantime. Now, the fear is always, what if it comes back more? Well, then we deal with it. We 100% deal with it. But the idea that we need to get someone off the phone, your sale is much more at risk every time you disengage with the prospect. So I want to engage. And if they're working with me through it, I want to keep that engagement high. If they don't want to get off the phone, I don't want to get off the phone with them. Now, this also means you have to have a personality that is higher than that of a paper towel, right? You have to be able to be okay engaging with people while you're doing your work and keeping them interested and enthralled. Otherwise, you just sort of end up in this bad situation of the click, 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 and everyone just wants to end it as soon as possible, and we only make it about price. So it takes practice. It takes some work on technology, but you can quote insurance over the phone, and you can in a lot of lines of commercial for small bops, etc. We have to understand that every time we disengage, it's more work on us. Finish it, end it. And I'll tell you, the agencies that are doing this, I've got two that come to mind. I just want to tell a quick story. One, Paradiso Insurance in Connecticut, we started getting them to quote over the phone. And she's just like, oh my God, the closing ratio is insane. The people just say yes. And it's so much more efficient because I'm not playing follow up. And then Texan Insurance in Houston, they actually converted. They have to now fill out a proposal form. So I said, guys, if you don't want to take the time to fill out your own branded proposal form, if you quote on the phone and get a yes, you don't have to do this proposal form. And it was the one thing that sort of tricked them into doing it. And they're like, this is so much better. I'm like, finally.
Well, here's the big secret, right? Nobody wants to deal with their insurance. They don't want to deal with it. They have to deal with it. So if we lean into that a little bit and say, I'm going to make it easy for you by give me a couple of extra minutes here, but I'm going to solve this for you now, they're much more likely to say, okay, I'm just going to do it. I can check it off my list and put it to bed and be done with it.
100%. I agree. Well, let's move on to the setting expectations, because if we're not quoting on the phone, Dave, I just see this as a huge gap that we have a bad habit of in insurance.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this a little bit in terms of when we're providing the quote, but this is really true throughout the sales process, whether it's setting an expectation, even if you are quoting them on the phone. Well, how long is this going to take? If you're doing the quote, if you're going to send an application, you have to consistently be setting that expectation. And then the key is obviously to hit that expectation too. So, but during the quote process, we're going to alert them to how many options we're going to provide for them. We recommend 3 that can be different in different markets. You might only be able to get to 2 based on the markets that you have. Or the underwriting qualifications. So, but we're going to tell them how many. So we're going to set the expectation for how many they're going to get. Again, we're going to continue to assume the sale. So we're not going to have any conversation about, oh, okay, well, once I send you these quotes, would you want to do this? Would you want to do that? You're just telling them what the process is. So I'm going to send you the 3 options. We're going to identify the one that you're going to do, and then what are the next steps? I'll send you the applications. Have to collect payment, etc. We're going to be ready to present all 4 lines. So we're going to get them on the phone. So this is the next one. Set the expectation of when we're going to deliver the quote. So what we really want to do is we want to make sure that we're identifying when we're going to contact them, how we're going to get them back on the phone, because we're not just going to email them the quote. We're going to get them back on the phone, and we're going to present all 4 lines that we recommended, even if we didn't have a conversation around them. So, for example, if I'm just supposed to be quoting the home and the auto, I'm still going to present the life and the umbrella quote to them. So we get them back on the phone. I'm presenting all 4 lines. We want to make sure we identify if there's any other decision makers. This holds true for both personal lines and commercial lines. Commercial lines, we want to see if there's any business partners that might override our conversations. Personal lines, is there a spouse or a parent or a child that needs to be involved in the conversation? Because the last thing that I want is for a business partner or a spouse to be explaining what I'm trying to explain to their partner. Because they're just simple. I mean, we're licensed agents, right? This is our area of expertise. I can't expect somebody else to translate this in a manner where the other person is going to say, oh, okay, yes, this sounds like a good idea. Again, we're going to quote on the phone or set that time. That's the key. We're going to set the time. And then I'm just going to make this point again. We need to deliver on the expectation. Setting it is only half of it. We actually then have to call them at the right time with the 4 lines of coverage.
I think this is so huge. Like, this is a slide I think everyone can just take a deep breath and marinate on for a minute. So if you're trying to quote me and you think, oh my gosh, I have to drop everything, you can't quote my 16 lines of insurance over the phone, obviously. That'd be really challenging. But why don't you say, Kelly, when are you available on Wednesday to go over your options? Well, I might say, Wednesday I'm flying to San Diego. That's actually a real terrible day for me. Could we do Thursday? Now you bought yourself an extra day, right? So like we all have this time management thing in insurance. We're all running around so busy, but a lot of us don't ever ask the by when, right? By when are we going to, do you need this by? That's huge, number one. Number two, I love what David said, never email a quote. I have a strict policy with a lot of my agencies. We do not email quotes. What we do is we say, I need to get on the phone with you to explain your options and firm up the final figure. And the reason that I do that is because there's no way that anybody cares about anything other than the premium box. So all your hard work and your explanation, especially if you're quoting 4 lines, they're like, what? No way. You have to be able to deliver that and talk to the person, because you can't ask for the business as much over email. So you have to be able to set that appointment and stay strong. It's your hard work. When you email a quote, guess what that person can do? Hit forward to their current agent, hit forward to their other agents they're talking to, and you can lose a sale because somebody takes your hard work. And I think that that's a ridiculous way to handle things. So we fight hard against emailing quotes. Now, at the end of the conversation, you can email it, but I even like it. I'm even more strict. Like I like a proposal form that doesn't even list the carrier name, because it's a vicious world out there. People are getting multiple quotes. Why give away your hard work?
Yeah. I think we have to recognize that we're insurance professionals here, right? So the general public has their idea of how they should interact with us, but we are really the ones that can set the expectation and set the stage for what the process is going to be. So if somebody doesn't want to get back on the phone with you, I don't know if to that point you've done the first 2 steps correctly, the first 3 steps correctly, and that those to me are the pieces that you want to revisit in order to say, okay, what did I do wrong here where the person's not even willing to take my call when I have their quotes ready?
No, I think that is so huge. And I'm actually going to set up a quick poll question here to see how many people, might not work. We'll go back to it. Just in the chat section, let's just do that because it'll be easier than the poll question so I don't distract everybody. How many people currently email quotes? And be honest, just use the chat section. Say if you do or if you don't. Say sometimes. But this is one of those things that will definitely change your life. So while we're seeing all those chats come in, I mean, foreign score to me is also huge for a couple of reasons. One, maybe today I'm not interested in an umbrella policy, but I'm planting those seeds for the future. So, if today I'm saying I'm not interested, the second I have a close call, the slip and fall at my pool this summer, I'm calling you. And maybe today is not the day for life insurance because I'm busy buying a new home and there's so much going on. But in my head, I'm connecting that you do it and I'm going to call you instead. And so when we shortchange the opportunity to show people 4 policies, they don't know the price, they don't know the process. Now it's just quick and simple. When they're ready, you're ready to go and you can just move forward. But when we don't do foreign score and we do, home and auto, or barely home and auto, or workers' comp and GL, and we say, we're going to get those policies later, most agencies are too busy to ever go back after those policies. It doesn't happen. And we all know in an agency with 1 line of business, it's the most vulnerable. But then you get to 2 lines, you think it's good. It's still not. The real driving force is those 4 lines. And so you have to be thinking every day, how am I presenting to my customers and prospects the 4 lines consistently? Whether it's account review calls, sales process, your marketing strategy, it's 4 lines, 4 lines, 4 lines. That's what everybody should be thinking at a minimum. And I love it when there's more, but I really want to drive that point home, is that foreign score is incredibly important for your retention, but also for those account rounds to come back into you. They can't get life insurance from you if they don't know you do it. And it's not the prospect or your customer's responsibility to study what you do. It's your responsibility as an agency owner to continuously promote all the products, services that you offer, and that you can do it better than anybody else.
And what I love about this too is it eliminates us separating our clients into monoline and everybody else, right? So we have our monoline accounts, we have our fully rounded accounts, and then we have everybody else, which is not monoline, yet still needs additional insurance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So just keep that in your mind. So let's go to delivering the quote, Dave. So now we've done all the work, right? The insurance interrogation expectations are set. Now we have this great relationship. You have to tell me how much money you're going to take from me.
Right, exactly. So again, if we've done our job up to this point, we have a good relationship and we have a good rapport built with the client. So we're not simply saying, here's your premium, you know, do you want it, do you want it, do you not want it? So we're always going to deliver the quote on the phone or in person. We just talked about that. We want to confirm that we've solved their main concern. So going back to that original question, you know, other than price, what's important to you? This is the time to identify that. So when we're reviewing the cover, so let's say, you know, they want to make sure that the car has the appropriate coverage on it. So we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about their deductible, you know, actual cash value on the car, whatever the case may be. So we're gonna pinpoint their concern and tie it to the quote so that we don't have to first have the conversation about premium. We're talking about one of their concerns and how we solved it for them. Sell the carrier and policy features, so certainly talk about the carrier. I always like if it's a local carrier, I always throw in that it's a local carrier. What is it about that company that made you choose them, again, above and beyond price? So is there a particular endorsement? Is there a, you know, what are the policy features that are going to make you drive that? We want to provide 3 options and 4 lines of coverage. So there's a again, going back to the idea that clients want to see more than one quote. We're going to provide them 3 options. And again, we're going to assume the sale on the 4 lines of coverage. So we're doing a full review of their account and we're presenting a solution to them. Continue to use our rapport, continue to lean on that relationship. Talk again about yourself and the agency. What do you do? This is a great time to bring up your annual review process again. You want to use daily or weekly numbers when you're talking about increases in premium. So if we're talking about an umbrella policy, you know, that's less than $1 a day, typically. If we're talking about savings, we always talk in terms of annual premium, right? So less than $1 a day becomes $300 a year when we're talking about savings. So I was able to save you $300, or increasing your deductible here would save you $300, or this particular discount I applied because you packaged your home in the auto is saving you $250 a year, right? So we talk in terms of savings, in terms of annual numbers, increases in terms of daily, weekly, or monthly.
And
then certainly have.
That's such a huge point, Dave. Like, this is like the simplest thing anybody could do right off this webinar without having to think too hard, right?
Right. Absolutely. Sorry, I'm losing. I think I just froze for a second. Okay, I'm back. Hi, everyone.
Hey. So we always say, you know, you can't provide options when you're emailing quotes. And I know we kind of touched upon this already, but really, you know, we always go think about good, better, best. Bronze, silver, gold. People love options. And oddly enough, lots of people don't choose the lowest option. So they come into you saying that I want the cheapest price. If you show them 3 options and you say for $8 more a month, for $4 more a month, whatever it is, they start seeing the value of that $4 and what they get. And so this is a huge sales strategy. I'm not just picking, okay, Dave had $750, Joe had $1,000. It's now somebody came in and explained it to me and empowered me as the consumer to be in charge of what I think is right for me through explanation and providing different options. Great for E&O, number 1. But number 2, just a great sales strategy. Very few places is it black and white. This is it, take it or leave it. Even with cars, you negotiate. You can't negotiate insurance premiums, but we sure as heck can go through and show different endorsements, coverage levels, et cetera. Educate that consumer for most likely the first time that they in their life of insurance, and then empower them with your assistance to make a decision. So this is really, really big, especially for agencies looking to upsell coverage levels, to think about 3 options. It's just, that's what we do. We give you 3 options. We're going to go through them. We're going to make a decision together. And then you're buying from me because you had some difference. You had some options in there.
Yeah, I think it's important to note too, those options can be different carriers. They can be different limits. They can be different endorsements. It's not necessarily saying, here are 3 different companies with the exact same coverage. You have to say, what's better about this company's better because they have a guaranteed replacement cost on the home instead of only a 25% limited. So what's the difference between them? It's not just saying, hey, here's 3 companies with the exact coverage. with 3 different numbers.
Good call. So now we're rounding it out. We got 6 minutes left, Dave.
Woohoo!
We got to ask for the business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So to me here, this is when we're transitioning, and this to me is the major component where we tend to fail. And again, I think that if you're just emailing a quote, you don't even have this opportunity, right? We have to get them on the phone in order to be able to have this conversation. So we need some type of closing script. So this one here, since I've been able to solve your main concerns, would you like to pay this in full or be placed on EFT? If you like that, use it. If you don't, use something else. What I would really say here, though, is what you don't want is a yes/no question here. Going back to the idea that we're providing options, we're going to allow them to make a decision, but we're not going to put in their hands that that the decision could be to not buy insurance, right? We're assuming the sale. We're assuming you're going to buy the insurance with us. What are we going to do? How are we going to do this together? So if I say to you, hey, do you like this policy? Do you want to move forward? Can I send you an application? One of my options now becomes no. We need to create a scenario where both options, you get a choice, but both are yeses. So now we come to the point where they're either going to say yes or they're going to have some type of objection. And my favorite thing to do in this area is to write out all the objections that you hear and have a response for them. There's really only like 5 or 6 different types of objections. I'm too busy. I got to talk to somebody else. The price is too high. I don't understand it. There's only a handful of objections. There's different variations of those. But just be prepared to know that every objection that you've heard before, so now you can create a response to it. All right? Kelly, this is your favorite thing. They sell you in the next steps or you sell them on yes. So the sale happens on every call, right? It's either you're selling them or they're selling you. No, I'll call you tomorrow. I'll call you next week. I got to do this. I got to do that. Don't ask yes, no questions. We went over that. And then always leave with a plan. So you're not going to get 100% of the people to say yes. They might actually have to review it with a spouse or a business partner. Or maybe they do have to run out the door right now because they're going to go get their kids at school. But what is the next step? And if they do say yes, what is the next step then? Can you bind it over the phone? Do you have to send them an application? Do they need to send in a check? Do they go online and make payment? What are the next steps? Make sure that you're clear with them on what they should be doing in order to make sure you're moving the ball forward, whether they have a yes or it's a we need another conversation.
Absolutely. This is the most important part, guys, because a lot of times you'll have people, well, why don't you think about it? Just let me know.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I just took it all as work. We spent an hour on the phone together. I want an answer. Let's do this.
Right.
What are we waiting for? And the second you let them off the phone, again, everything goes longer, farther, less jeopardy of winning. You have to make sure you have a significant closing of wouldn't you agree? Let's get started. Wouldn't you agree that this is a great option for you? Wouldn't you agree that the gold package is the way to go? Great. Let's move forward. How do you want to set up your first payment? And you just ease into it. But there's none of this back and forth of I call it kind of being a weenie. It's like, no, it's now game time. We did work. We love each other. We're besties. Now let's ask for it.
And remember, they want to be done with it too.
Yeah, 100%.
So just ask for it, let them say yes, and move on with their lives.
So we have a couple minutes for questions. So I'd like some people to chat in some questions that we can field while I just wrap up a few more things here. We do have kind of an infographic on how to be a ridiculously amazing personal lines agent. So if anybody wants that, they can send me a message on Facebook, email, etc. We'll make sure to get that over to you. The real reason I love this sales process, guys, is I hate follow-up. To me, following up is like flashback to high school when my first boyfriend broke up to me and I had to call his house line because there was no cell phones. Be like, Mrs. So-and-so, can I talk to Tommy? Please. Oh, he's not in. I think he is. I'm outside his house.
Okay, you got some stories, huh?
The first one was the roughest, Dave. But you really want to think about that. Like, I hate follow-up. I hate everything about it. Every time I have to follow up with somebody, I'm like, I didn't do my job the way I should have. Because statistically, it's 6 follow-up phone calls to seal a deal. So, if you're thinking to yourself, oh, I don't want to stalk people. Oh, that's too much. That's the statistics. So you can't give up too early. And there's even statistics that show it's 3 phone calls the first day if they blow you off. Because you have to get that sale in. So follow-up was never my strongest point. So I wanted to have such a great sales process. And this was like my penalty of calling someone 3 times in the same day if I didn't win. So, and that made me force myself to go back and be like, I need to get stronger here. I need to get stronger here. For those of you guys don't know, Dave and I have a podcast. We shoot it once a month. So you can go to iTunes, you can go to Stitcher, you can go to all the major ones. You can also check out our weekly newsletter. When we release it, we're out there. So if you liked what went on today, they're usually about 20 minutes long. Great resource for you guys. And if you're an IAOA member, we're launching our spring cleaning special. So if you buy 2 services from us, we're actually going to give you 10% off. So that's a huge offer, guys. As you know, you're looking at what you're going to do this year, some of the contingency money starts coming in. Consider us as an option. And, you know, we can talk to you about all of our services. We have a website and branding firm. We have the coaching and consulting firm. We can do all sorts of cool stuff. But we do have some questions that are coming in. So let's see if we can take a few of them. Let's see here.
Budget. Thanks, Cal.
Oh, people liked our thing. Yes. I know. No questions? We need questions, guys. Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks, Brad. Well, here's the great news. Since everyone's just giving us admiration, which we appreciate very much, if anybody does have a question, I do not want to leave anyone high and dry. So we are always happy to help, whether that's filling out a contact form on our website, shooting us a social media message. If there are any burning questions that you just don't want to put out here publicly, let me know. So we do have a good question here. What's your feeling on follow-up using automation such as Infusionsoft? I'll take this one. So my feeling on it is that that's technology-assisted sales. It's not sales through technology. So automation will assist in closing the deal, but it shouldn't just be the only thing you're using. You need to have a blended strategy of phone call, text message, and the email automation. Do not rely on just one because it's so easy to delete an email today. Another question is, how do I feel about video proposals? I think it's great if you can't close it on the phone. So if it is that spouse question of, oh, I need to talk to my spouse, I'd shoot the video proposal all day long. But my number one priority would be that video proposals or custom proposals are 20% of the time. 80% of the time, I'm going in to sell that policy right then and there. So there is no need for follow-up. Somebody asked, will we email out this webinar? If you guys fill out a contact form, you can find that on social media or shoot us an email. We do have the recording. We'll get that out there. Hey, Dave, someone had a great question here. Somebody said, I love it and will do it all myself, but I'm not sure how to get the staff on board. Is that something that maybe you want to try to take as a question? Oh, I think we might have lost Dave. He might have lost power. Like he said, we're going through a nor'easter up where he is. So getting the staff on board, I always say that's one of the things we have to show value. How is this going to benefit them? And that's what our APPX sales training program is. So we come in and help with this for 6 months to sort of convert everybody over. It's a slow process. It's not as simple as, hey, here's a one shot, let's go for it. But you really have to show value and make people comfortable with it. Everything we talked about here is a lot. So what we talked about here, typically we work to install over a 10-week period. And then we go in through another sprint of advanced sales tactics. But you know, you do want to pace yourself. You do want to set people's expectations. It's really a comfort level and explaining why this is going to benefit them, and then holding their hand through the process. So it's tough to change, but it's also one of those things when there's a lot of structure and they know it's a committed plan and they know they're going to get help and it's going to be monitored and measured. And that's really what we bring into the table. You're going to be in a great situation to help people adopt and adapt it. So I really appreciate everybody. I do have to hop off. Any questions, please use our social media channels, use our contact form on our website. We want to help as much as we can. I appreciate you guys spending your morning with me or afternoon, depending on where you were. But thank you guys. Just so much gratitude to IAOA and everybody who joined us today. And if you do want the recording, hop on our events page on our website, fill out the form, or just email us if you can't find it, and we'll be happy to help you. Anyway, have a great day, guys. And anything you need, let us know. We'd love to be your first thought if you guys need anything in your agencies. Have a good one.